Now, still back here in the Group Policy Management Editor, still focusing here on the default domain policy, I want to talk about another kind of special use case for group policy, and that is with folder redirection. Now, in certain circumstances, you may find that it would be better to transparently redirect certain aspects of a user's profile to a server somewhere where that information could, for example, be backed up. Folder redirection comes in a variety of different ways. You can redirect the entire desktop. You can redirect the start menu. You can redirect your documents folder. If you wanted to get really crazy, you could even redirect the app data folder. Any of these redirections can happen as part of a group policy setting that's found down here under user configuration. Now remember, anytime we deal with any configurations down here in the user half, this GPO will need to be applied to an organizational unit full of user accounts and not computer accounts. But once you do that, you can come down here under Policies and Windows Settings and take a look at Folder Redirection, for which you can see the variety of different folders that can be redirected to some server somewhere in your environment. Now for any of these, let's pick Documents, for example. If we right-click the Documents folder here and view Properties, it's here where we can specify the location of the Documents folder and what we want to do with that Documents folder. Do we want to, for example, redirect everyone's folder to the same location? Now, when we do that, we still have the option of creating subfolders under the root path that is unique for each individual user. So for example, if I created a share over on my file1 server, I could create file1/documents, and then each subfolder of that folder would correspond with the logon name, the username of each user who received this GPO. I could also redirect to the user's home directory or to a different location if I wanted to as well. So these give me some pretty good control over redirecting transparently the document's location that a user is working with over to some server somewhere where those documents could conceivably be backed up. I could also, if I wanted to, choose up here Advanced Configuration, which would allow me to specify different locations for different user groups. So if, for example, I had, the IT group, well, the IT group could have its folders redirected to some other location that would be the finance group or the executives group. If I choose back up here, the basic redirection, I can come back over here to settings and then configure some additional configurations, whether or not the user gets exclusive rights to their documents folder, whether or not you want to automatically just move the contents of all those desktops to the new location once the group policy is received and processed. Do you want to apply the redirection policy to down-level OSs like Windows 2000 and 2003 and XP? And then lastly, and this is very important, when the policy is removed or when the user falls out of scope of the policy, perhaps their user account moves to a different organizational unit where that policy doesn't exist, do you want to leave that folder in the new location or do you want to redirect the folder back to the local location once the policy's been removed? So folder redirection gives you quite a bit of flexibility here in ensuring that users have access to various aspects of their profile, but those pieces, the parts that are very important, have the ability to be homed perhaps on a server as opposed to on each individual desktop. Now there are a couple of different caveats to this, or a couple of gotchas you really need to be aware of. If a user is used to transparently having their documents folder, for example, redirected to a server, and then they take that laptop out into some other location, well, they may not be able to access that server because they're out in an airport or a coffee shop somewhere. So there is some user education that may have to happen if you end up doing any of these folder redirects. Also, folder redirection can sometimes have an impact on performance, on client performance, particularly if you redirect some of the more important parts of the operating system, like, for example, the app data location, or like the desktop. In some cases, if you have a latent network connection, just simply clicking the Start menu can inadvertently create some delay because that Start menu needs to be grabbed from a server somewhere else on the network. So anytime you do folder redirection, you have to do so with caution because there can be some unintended consequences of actually redirecting those folders elsewhere.